All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to talk about building wealth, but not with some vague, fluffy theory. We're talking about the exact tools that billionaires and the smartest CEOs on the planet use, financial statements. And trust me, by the end of this, you're not going to see them as boring documents anymore. You're going to see them as your personal roadmap to building real wealth.
I mean, let's be totally honest for a second. This is probably what you think, right? The moment you hear income statement or balance sheet, your eyes just kind of glaze over. It feels like homework that somebody else is supposed to do.
But that idea is completely wrong. And you know what? That one little misconception is the very thing that holds most people back from ever achieving their financial goals.
Here's the secret. The really smart investors, the successful founders, they're not using some crazy, complicated algorithm. Nope. They're using these 3 simple documents to make all their big decisions. It's all about mastering these 3 tools. That's it. So, what's the big deal really? Why does a guy like Warren Buffett, a literal billionaire, spend so much of his time just reading these things? Well, it's not because he loves accounting. It's because of the story they tell. Because when you put these 3 statements together, they answer the only questions that truly matter for building wealth. First, is this thing actually making money? Is it profitable? Second, is it strong? What assets does it have that can make me wealthier? And third, the big one, can it survive? Does it have the cash to keep going? You get these 3 things right, and you are well on your way. Okay, let's start with tool number 1, the income statement. I want you to think of this as your profit engine. It's the thing that shows you exactly how money is coming into your life or your business.
Its job is incredibly simple. It tells you if you're actually making a profit. And the formula? It's so straightforward. You just take all the money that comes in, that's your revenue, and you subtract everything that went out. Those are your expenses. Whatever is left over, that's your net profit. Simple as that.
And this little example makes it crystal clear, right? You've got a small online store. It brought in $20,000 in sales. Then you subtract the cost of the products it sold and all the other operating costs. What's left at the bottom? $5,000. That is the profit engine, humming along. But here's where the wealthy mindset kicks in. It's not just about getting more revenue. It's about improving your profit margin. That's the percentage of the revenue you actually get to keep. So think about that store from the last slide. If you cut just 10% from those $7,000 in operating expenses, that's an extra $700 in pure profit. Every single month. That works out to over $8,400 a year, going straight to the bottom line. That is how you build wealth with efficiency.
All right, let's move on to our second tool, the balance sheet. Now, if the income statement is your engine, then think of this as your wealth map. It's a snapshot that shows you exactly where you stand financially at any given moment. And the formula here is just as powerful. Your net worth equals what you own, your assets, minus what you owe, your liabilities. And that reveals the simple rule for getting richer. Make sure your assets are growing faster than your liabilities. That's the whole game.
And here's what that looks like on a personal level, right? You've got your assets on one side, cash, stocks, maybe your car. Then on the other side, you've got your liabilities, student loans, maybe a car loan. The difference between those 2 bars, that's your net worth. The whole goal is to make that asset bar get taller and taller while that liability bar shrinks.
And this right here, this is the simple trick that the wealthy have absolutely mastered. They don't just buy stuff, they buy assets that generate income, assets that feed back into their profit engine, that income statement we just talked about. See how it's all starting to connect? This is how the 2 documents work together to make you richer.
And that brings us to our third tool. And you could argue it's the most critical one of all, the cash flow statement. This is your survival guide. Why? Because it tells you what's actually happening with your real physical cash. Now listen up, because this might be the most important thing you hear today. It is entirely possible to be profitable and still go completely broke. This is the hidden trap that catches so many new entrepreneurs and even seasoned investors off guard. So how on earth does this happen? Well, imagine your income statement, your profit engine, says you made a $10,000 profit. Awesome, right? But then you look at your cash flow statement, your survival guide, and it shows you're actually negative $12,000 in cash. How is that possible? Well, maybe you made a ton of sales, but your customers haven't actually paid you yet. But at the same time, you had to pay your suppliers in cash. You see the problem? Without cash in the bank, that profitable business is dead in the water. Always remember, profit is a theory, but cash is reality.
So the real magic, the real secret, happens when you stop looking at these as three separate documents, and you start using them together as one complete master playbook for building wealth.
And the strategy is actually a really simple loop. Step 1, you use the income statement to find or create profit. Step 2, you take that profit and use the balance sheet as your map to buy assets that produce even more income. And step 3, while you're doing all that, you're watching your cash flow statement like a hawk to make sure you always have enough cash on hand to survive and keep growing. Let's look at how this exact playbook built a giant like Tesla. Go back to 2018, and the company was in real trouble. Negative margins, tons of debt. But they focused on this loop. By 2020, they hit a huge milestone. Their operating cash flow, the actual cash from their main business, turned positive. That was the survival point. And from there, they used that cash to build up their assets, so that by 2023, their balance sheet had just exploded, and their profit margins were fantastic.
And the result of all that? Over 700 times billion dollars in value created. That is the incredible power of executing this simple playbook with absolute focus and consistency.
So, what do you do with this? What's your action plan? Well, if you're an investor, it's pretty simple. Look for companies that are already doing this really well. For business owners, it's all about obsessing over your margins and your cash cycles. And for your own personal finances, start tracking your net worth and make it your mission to turn your income into assets that work for you.
So look, the most important takeaway is this. We have to stop seeing these as boring accounting documents. They're not. They are strategic maps. They are literally a guide that shows you exactly how to get from where you are today to wherever you want to be financially. You've got the playbook now. You've got the tools and you have the map. So the only question left is, where are you gonna go first?